ever get that where you get that tweak and you're like, what the fuck? It's like,
might as well talk about your knee. What else? We're gonna
okay.
All right.
Well, I see it's on the list, but yeah.
I mean, there's a few things, but all right. Welcome to a new episode of The Usual Saints. I'm Mike D this week here with Sainte as usual lately since he's been back from the boat. Sainte, how you doing?
Pretty good. Yourself? Well, until my knee got fucked up. But yeah, doing all right.
That's right. A lie straight off the bat. Pretty good, except for my fucking knee is broken. But go ahead. What's going on?
Nah, I just had my birthday last week on the 9th and just feel like I'm having one of those senior moments where it didn't hit it on anything, didn't bang it, wasn't a moment, but I was just coming down the stairs today, like around noontime, and then just felt a tweak, like, ooh, like what's that? And since then, it's just kind of, been feeling a tweak in it. And I'm like, God damn it, getting old sucks.
That it does. I can get I had the rotator cuff surgery. I've torn each of my calf muscles once, since playing kickball. The body breaks down, I guess. So I guess I have more respect for these athletes. Like, for instance, I just watched the Steelers win over the Tennessee Titans, which was nice. But you see TJ Watt, Romo's speculating that he broke some ribs. Of course, it's all speculation. But he's out there and he's grimacing like he's in severe pain, and like. I'm like, I could go out there and probably stop one or two of these guys. Put me out there, coach.
Nah, man, isn't there something? Do you know what it's called? It's where human beings, we do it on both ends. Like we overestimate what we're capable of on one end, but then we underestimate what we can do on the other end. I forget what it's called, but it's like, human beings, we do it on both sides. Like on one side, a lot of people like I could go out there and probably catch a ball for an example, or I could return a serve from a star tennis player. It's like, no, you can't. People who are at the top of the game, no, you can't. But then there are other things that people are perfectly capable of doing. I don't know, say like understanding computers or learning how to code or something, and someone's like, oh, I can't do that. I just don't have the brain for it. It's like, well, yeah, you can. If you just, applied yourself in a few weeks, you probably could. It's that duality of people. But, nowadays it seems like people way more overestimate what they're capable of. Cause I hear that shit all the time. Like, oh, these athletes, I could get out there and do it. Like, no, you couldn't do it. And the reason they get paid, cause no one wants to see your fucking slubby ass out there trying to catch passes or tackle. Like people would literally find anything else better to do than do that. Anyway.
Are you saying I couldn't throw my 6'1", 285-pound body at someone and at least knock them over? I'm not saying I could overpower anyone.
No. Nope. Professional? No. College, high elite college? Nope. No, he will get run over. I put it this way. I was like, you can go out into your local park or whatever. You'll see people out there playing flag football, doing all kinds of stuff. Now, yeah, if they're your buddies or their coworkers or whatever, you might just stop and watch it. The question is, are you going to actually pay any kind of money, or would you stay on your couch and watch this? Of course not. Like, I'm watching these slubs out here pretending to play. Of course, I'm not going to watch this. So, yeah, the answer is no. And it's just funny when you get into these debates of people, or these athletes aren't worth their money. It's like, hey, people will pay a lot of money to see Michael Jordan do his thing. Nobody's going to pay you. Or here's a better example. The classic ones is, oh, I'd go in the ring and get knocked out by Mike Tyson for $5 million. It's like, no one's going to pay to see you get knocked out. That's the thing. You're just it's like paying to see someone get knocked out in the middle of the streets. Like, I can see that for free. I can go to World Star Hip Hop and see that for free. I'm not going to pay money for that. So yeah, to me, it's just funny how people just can't understand the idea of, like, one, how good professional athletes actually are, and two, why no one's going to pay money to see you get knocked out. Although I guess you could make a case. We could talk about that. The fight that just happened last night, the Logan Paul Woodley part 2. Logan Paul actually knocked that dude the fuck out. He put dude to sleep. And dude was a UFC guy, even though you could say dude's quote unquote was a UFC champion, but he was he basically won by luck. Everyone know he was tomato can in the UFC, but I think the Pauls and a lot of people like him on YouTube. It's what I call they've cracked the entertainment algorithm for our day and age. If you think about it, they've basically figured out what people, I don't know what age range, would you say 18 or no, let's go younger than that, maybe 13 to 35, what they find, what the things they find entertaining, which I've definitely aged out of that because yes, I understand why it's entertaining, but it's not stuff that I want to watch. But for these younger kids, it's like, they don't care about real boxers. So they'd much rather see a YouTuber or a celebrity they've heard of get in the ring and try to knock each other out. And, you know, Logan Paul, young guy, relatively in good shape. Apparently he trains. It's like, yeah, he's going against tomato cans. And it's like, when you go against a real boxer, of course not. But anyway.
He did go against Mayweather, right? And Mayweather's not even in his prime anymore. Wasn't that Paul?
Mayweather's in his 40s. Mayweather does what he does. He stays away. Apparently, you know, it's kind of an exhibition, but of course Mayweather wouldn't lose. Mayweather's not going to do anything to put himself in danger. And that fight turned out exactly how you thought it would turn out. But it was Mayweather seeing an opportunity like, hey, I can make a quick, you know, think whatever you want of Mayweather. He's never going to turn out an opportunity to make a lot of money quickly and get in and get out. You know, this was just an opportunity. It's like, I can make a quick $10 million without breaking a sweat. Okay. And yeah, there was absolutely no way Mayweather was going to lose. I'm hesitant to call those fights fixed, but for me, it's like, I can't see a scenario where these tomato cans, where any of them knock out Jake Paul or Logan or any of them, because you're going to stop the gravy train. But for someone like Mayweather has a big enough name where he's like, look, dude, I'm going to do this to give you more credibility, but I'm not getting knocked the fuck out. No way. Mayweather's like, I'm not going to fuck up my rep. So I was like, there's no way Mayweather loses going into it. And most of these fights, I'm like, there's no way Jake Paul loses, because then you're going to stop the money train. And who wins on that case for these guys? Well, a lot of these guys, it's just a quick money grab. I mean, you get it while you can, but you know, is he going to go? I'd like to see him, if we're going to do Xboxes, go against one of the Klitschko brothers. Go against one of those dudes talking that heavyweight shit, and those Russian guys who still have a lot of pride, like, you know, hey, I'm going to take your money and I'm going to fuck. The Klitschko brother, they're the type of people would be like, yeah, they may be in on it. Like, hey, the Pauls are going to win, and they're going to get in the ring and be like, nah, no, I fuck you up.
Niet.
And be like, hey, we got to keep the gravy train. You're going to get your checks. Like, niet. I control the gravy train. Here you go. But anyway,
I will break you.
Yeah.
Bring out the Drago. We should what? Go ahead.
I'm saying we should start our every podcast what rants? You got any weekly rants? I'm always good for one. You see, you're always good for one. That should be the name of the A block from now on. The usual Saints weekly rants. What are we ranting about this week, Mike?
I'm pissed, but I haven't even started it yet. So, but it's something that happened a year ago. Home Depot, the first time we ever had them install anything at our house. We've had Lowe's doing it, but Lowe's came out and said they couldn't do the job or whatever, but they were obviously wrong because the job got done eventually. But the guys who came out and installed the 3 sliding doors, the hurricane, you know, impact, whatever, and the front door, you know, they didn't seem as skilled as I would have loved them to be. So the screen door on our slider just has always been janky. And someone from Home Depot came out and fixed it in March, allegedly, but it still slides weird. And now the lock is broken on it. And so I call Home Depot after reaching out to the guy who told me to reach out to him anytime I needed something fixed, because he would be the one to come out anyway. And he never got back to me. So I reached out to Home Depot. They're like, oh, it's been over a year since the install, so you have to reach out to the door company and they'll take care of you, because you have a lifetime warranty. I reach out to the door company. First of all, I can't get a hold of these motherfuckers via email. I wait 2 weeks. They don't respond. I call them. I leave a voicemail. They don't respond. I wait several more days. I get a hold of someone. And this woman has the nerve to tell me that, if it's an installation issue, it has to be Home Depot. So I'm like stuck between a rock and a hard place. And so I'm about to email the executive board of Home Depot and get my fucking answer. You know me.
Yeah. Hell to the yeah. The executive board. Maybe that should be the name. The executive board files. Like, what executive board are we reaching out to this week for the company fucking up? That's what I'm talking about. Actually, we should go from start to finish. This should be an ongoing series. So we need to find out what happens. What was the instigating incident? So we have the sliding glass doors. Both Home Depot and the door company give you the runaround. So wait a minute, which executive board are you going to reach out to?
Home Depot.
Okay, which I'm guessing is a big. That's the big one, because I'm guessing the door company probably is just like a mom and pop kind of thing, or are they
PGT manufacturing or something? So they make the actual doors and windows that Home Depot is hiring someone to come install or whatever. Home Depot's selling their products. But if Home Depot never installed it right the first time, we had so many problems. They installed it in September. We didn't pay them until January because they had to keep coming out and fixing all these issues for their shitty job, their shitty workmanship. And at the end, we were like, whatever, we weren't really using the screen doors. So we didn't know until afterwards that there was this issue. The guy who came out from Home Depot, who does all the fixes, has said that there was an issue by the installers, and he tried to fix it the best he could. And now, just because it's December, a year and 3 months later, it's my fault. Fuck you. So someone's gonna fix this shit. We'll see. We'll see what comes of it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I had a busy weekend. Seeing Spider-Man No Way Home.
What's your don't give a grade, and don't give any spoilers, even though I'm on record saying I'm usually one that doesn't really care about spoilers, because most movies can't really be spoiled. But this one is one I kind of want to go in fresh. I already know probably two, I wouldn't even say two, but I already know. Okay, basically, I don't know any specific plot details, but I do know, obviously, the worst kept secret is the other two Spider-Men being in there. But I do know another thing, that there are, and I think Kevin Feige already dropped the bag on this one, about how there are some other characters introduced in there from other Marvel properties. So I'm trying to be as unspoiler as I can too. So I do know those two things, which were already, they're already theorized, and I'm guessing probably come true. So without giving a grade, without giving any plot details, what was your opinion? Good, great, amazing, no pun intended.
Isn't that kind of giving a grade?
Yes, but there's a specific grade. Okay, I'll put it like this. Would you put it in the top tier of superhero movies, the middle tier of superhero movies, or the bottom tier of superhero movies?
Top, easily.
Okay, easily. Okay. Easily. Nice.
You'll see. We'll talk more about, I assume, for anyone listening to this, if you want to listen to our Spider-Man No Way Home review on the USSR Sainte, I think we'll be recording it maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, I guess, depending on work and
I'm seeing it Tuesday. I'm seeing it Tuesday afternoon. So anytime after Tuesday, 4:00, is we can record, and I'll try to get that up as soon as possible. I'd like to get that up before. I mean, obviously we would. I'd like to get that up before we put up the last episode of Hawkeye, because then Hawkeye comes out that Wednesday. We can watch it then, or the season finale of Hawkeye, I should say.
Yeah. See, I haven't spoiled anything. I think I kept my straight face when you were trying to say your shit, so I'm not going to say anything else. However, we were definitely wrong, and we probably should talk about that. We will talk about this on the episode. We were definitely wrong about how much it was going to make. I was thinking 150 high end because of pandemic. 253 million, the third biggest weekend of all time.
What did I say?
I think we kind of agreed on 150. I don't think either of us thought it was going to hit 200. I'd have to go back and listen to the USSR, but
I have to go. I thought I was around 200. I thought it'd make 200. Okay. I thought the pandemic would still affect it a little bit, but 200 million is still great. But 250, I guess what gave away is because I guess all the ticket sites were saying that they've sold more tickets, more pre-events tickets than any movie before. So is it going to break the record, or does Endgame still?
No, Endgame, and then Infinity War, and then Spider-Man. I mean, obviously, final numbers aren't in until Sunday's over, but they always know pretty much, give or take, probably a million, or I don't know. I don't know the exact specifics. They always know Sunday morning how much it's made, based off Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday, and they assume it's Sunday. So
because Sunday kind of trails off a bit, they know they're going to trail off. So if they've overcome, so that's how they adjust it. But another thing, I think just like Endgame and Infinity War, this will still have, like I said, I'm going to see it Tuesday. I'm imagining there's still going to be plenty of people that go see it, going into the weekend. And if people don't have things to do for, Christmas Eve or the day after Christmas, this probably still going to have pretty good legs. So yeah, 253 million. That's another win for, I guess, really a win for Sony, but still a win for Marvel. And with this, it perfectly makes sense. I mean, Amy Pascal, you could debate whether she's racist or a mean lady or whatnot, but she's not a dummy. And I'm thinking it's like, if this is the golden formula, sticking with Marvel, and I know there had to be conversations with Sony being like, hey, we can create our own multiverse. We can do our own thing, keep 100% of the profits. Do we want to go that way? I'm sure probably Amy Pascal looked around and be like, are you guys like, we're doing fine with this formula right here. Let's not fuck up the bag. And let's, keep Tom Holland, Zendaya, Kevin Feige, and Marvel, and let's stick with the formula, so 250. Yeah. Okay. I'll put it this way. Do you think it's warranted to be number 3, or do you think it could have been, even, I guess, what am I trying? Because and I think everything's get a little messed up. You have to put in that little COVID asterisk to it. But do you think this is a worthy number 3 to Infinity War and Endgame?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think, you like to point out that you think Spider-Man is probably the biggest comic draw, even bigger than Batman and everything like that. Yes. So, I mean, if there was no pandemic, I think it may have been higher. But at the same time, it also is like that desire to see one of these movies. Black Widow came out and Shang-Chi's came out and whatnot, Venom. But the last huge Marvel movie that everyone had anticipated and whatnot and saw was Spider-Man Far From Home in 2019 summer. So you get this 2.5 years later, and it's just like that desire, that built up, pent up desire to see a film like this. And, like you said, with all the rumors and everything surrounding it, people are going to go to see if what is thought to be true is true. So, you'll see on Tuesday. We'll talk about it more on Tuesday.
Right. We're getting close to the point. We're like, shit, I need to go see this movie. Okay. So I'll let you, I don't know if you want to take a break or.
Yeah, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and cover some deaths and some, other news stuff. And we'll go from there. So you're listening to The Usual Saints. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Usual Saints. I'm Mike D here with Sainte. We just covered not spoiling Spider-Man No Way Home for Sainte. And there's a few other topics that have popped up in the news this week. Let's see. This kind of goes back to Spider-Man No Way Home, just based off the Marvel universe is what I mean. We, Kingpin came back, obviously, in Spider-Man and whatchamacallit. Help me out here. Hawkeye episode 5. Hawkeye, yeah. I get confused because there's so much shit going on right now. Kingpin came back. You called it. I was talking to my wife the other day, who's not listening to our podcast sadly lately, and so she's not caught up. And so she's like, "Oh yeah, my boss was like, oh yeah, Kingpin is going to show up." Oh, I'm like, man, me and Sainte been talking about this for weeks. Like, are you not listening? But Kevin Feige confirmed, I think in the past week, that whenever they do decide to introduce Daredevil back into the MCU, whether it's, I guess, television or film or whatnot, that Charlie Cox is going to be Matt Murdock Daredevil. So I was pretty excited to see that. I know people have speculated, when the first trailer came out, you see like these forearms on a table in an interrogation scene and people are like, oh, those are Matt Murdock's forearms. I'm like, how the fuck would you even guess that or think that? I mean, I guess you could speculate, but where is that reasoning coming from?
They are frame by frame on the YouTube stuff now. They will dissect the trailer frame by every frame, every 24 of every second. They're going into them. So,
well, I mean, I loved Charlie Cox's run on Daredevil, so I was excited to hear that officially announced. And I think it was right before the Hawkeye episode 5 came out, basically, and because once that came out, if Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, you think Charlie Cox is probably going to come back, and hopefully that leads to John Bernthal coming back. I saw a funny meme. I don't think we talked about it. Oh, you don't think? What about John Bernthal? You don't like him as Punisher? Do you want
to finish the meme, or do you want to go into?
Well, that's fine. The meme said so. It was some chick walking by. It's 2 pictures. Some chick walking by some guy, and he had this big smile on his face, and the chick had like Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Daredevil written on her, right? And the guy has Iron Fist written on him. And then so she's walking by, and the guy starts walking after her. And then I think another guy's right next to him. And it's like, I think it's like Kevin Feige or Marvel or something. I think it's at Marvel. And it's like, no, he's like, stop the guy.
Pretty much.
Iron Fist was probably the least well received of those Netflix Marvel series. So what were you going to say? You didn't like John Bernthal as Punisher?
No, kind of didn't. I kind of felt I understand what they were going for, and those Netflix Marvel series were supposed to be kind of darker, kind of on the grittier side, dealing with the Hell's Kitchen, and more like street level Marvel heroes and stuff. But I wasn't really, which is crazy because I do like him as an actor. I think he's a really good actor. But for Punisher, I just didn't think he came off. He came off, and I guess they were going more for, let's say, Iraq War, Afghanistan, PSD veteran type vibe. And not him. Vin Jones is Iron, definitely not. I hope that they recast those 3, and I'd be okay also if they recast Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. I just don't see those actors as big screen, mostly because what happened in Defenders series. I said, oh yeah, Daredevil and Kingpin, they carry this. And granted, I thought the first season of Jessica Jones was pretty good. I really enjoyed it, but compared to how Jessica Jones is in the Marvel comics and how I could see that character in the MCU, yeah, I don't think they relate. I think they work well as that. I think the Iron Fist was a complete disaster. Let's just put that on the side. That meme was correct. Iron Fist was just a disaster. But for the Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and for the Punisher, I think they worked in the Netflix series, but in the MCU, I wouldn't mind seeing a couple of recasting choices for those. Not trying to put any actor out of work. That's just my opinion for him. But yeah, definitely Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin definitely would work on the bigger screen. But
gotcha. All right, and let's see what else. Star Wars. We talked about this in our chat. Star Wars Eclipse, the new video game trailer. Now, obviously, the trailer they put out doesn't have any playable scenes, but it's a fucking thing of beauty. Like, you watch this trailer and the music, the sound, the visuals, the characters, it takes place 200 years before, I think, what we know of as, I think, the prequels and whatnot, during the High Republic, I believe, the time. So, you got like someone that looks like Newt Gunray. I think it's a Nemoidian is what they call that race. You get one of the Trade Federation ships in the air, and there's an attack going on. You get someone who looks like a protocol droid, but it's not C-3PO because he hasn't been built yet. You get a lot of cool looking stuff in that trailer without revealing a whole lot. You get some Jedi on a bridge dueling, and then you get someone turning on some lightsabers with like some race or clan of some kind of creatures running at him. So it looks pretty sick. I'm excited because I loved Fallen Order when it came out. I'm looking forward to Fallen Order 2, which I think is in development. What did you think about the Eclipse trailer, or what might? I know you said you knew a little bit about the studio and the games they've put out. I had not. I've heard of the games, but not played them. So go ahead.
Right. And there was also a controversy, which I guess we'll get into afterward. But yeah, I mean, I'm for any new Star Wars IP specifically, and I'm for anything that, if this may sound counterintuitive, but I really like when they let outside entities play with the IP and we sort of get away from the Skywalker saga. Because it feels like a lot of times, it feels like I felt with specifically with Rise of Skywalker, sometimes Lucasfilms is they're too joined at the hip. They consider the Skywalker saga so sacred, they're scared to take chances. Full disclosure, I am of the opinion, I'm one of the people that really, really love The Last Jedi as opposed to some of the other part of the fandom. And so when they start taking chances away from, like you said, with Fallen Order, with Battlefields and that stuff, I think we get really creative stuff that expands the universe, and usually it's pretty good. So I was really excited about it. This studio, they've had a couple of titles that I've played. The first one was Heavy Rain. And so, like, again, we didn't see any gameplay footage from this, but if going by what they've done before, it was Heavy Rain. And then they had another title that was for PS4 that was called, I think, Almost Human, or what was it? Almost Human.
Detroit Become Human.
Detroit Become Human. So basically these games, it's like they're very story based and they're like decision based. They put you involved, they put you inside of a character, and it's not completely, I wouldn't say it's like open world, but basically you take this character, you move him around and you interact with the world, but it's based a lot about just making choices. Like Heavy Rain was your detective trying to solve this story. And, it's much more than just your basic, murder mystery kind of deal. But from whatever choice you make, will determine what ending you get. And Detroit Become Human had a lot to do. I think basically the story, it takes place in a future where the city of Detroit comes back because they've developed Android technology, and some of these Android, they become almost human-like, and there's only certain ways to determine if they're human or not. And it deals a lot with, I guess a lot of movies and a lot of stories have taken place, like what really makes someone human. Can a robot have feelings, be human-like stuff? And I know from the synopsis I've got of that game, you play 3 different kind of androids who are doing 3 different jobs, but as most androids, basically the Blade Runner theory, can an android be considered human? What defines humanity and what defines consciousness, that sort of thing. So if this Star Wars game, if this is what this, studio is basically what they do, it would be interesting to play a Star Wars game where you play a bounty hunter or a Jedi. And instead of, more of like an action adventure type, it's more of a choice that you make. Like you get put in scenarios and the choices, do you kill this person or do you don't? Do you let this person go? What decisions do you make? And then overall, how does that affect the overall story, and gives you different ending? So it'd be really interesting to see what this studio would do with a Star Wars game. So I'm really excited. It looks great. I mean, if this is going to be for next gen consoles, and from the images from the trailers, I mean, we could really get some really cool looking Star Wars. I'd love to see what it does on a PS5 or, an Xbox X. But I guess now we can talk about sort of the controversy that arrived from it.
Well, I mean, I read one article on Gizmodo about it, just a little bit. I mean, I guess you might know a little bit more, something about toxic workplaces from the studio itself, Quantic Dream. What do you know about it?
Well, I know Quantic Dream is headed by a guy named David Cage. He basically writes the scripts for these. Like, just for an example, I think Heavy Rain, I think the script was like something like 20,000 or 20,000 pages for the script. Like these scripts he writes, he writes these massive, massive scripts for these stories, the equivalent to like 3 or 4 screenplays. Cause basically not only do you have to, write the script for the game, but then, the player's choices. And like I said, these games evolve where you're making choices all the time. Whatever choices you make, then the NPC characters you're interacting with have different reactions, and then that can lead to a different reaction. That is, if they're trying to make the quote unquote choose your own adventure type, but realistically in video games. But, and I'd heard about this before, but, because I wasn't, I didn't know if, they were going to be going into any more gaming games. I'll just read something right here. This is from the Twitter feed for Star Wars Explained. So David Cage, he's basically the founder and executive producer for the studio. And here's one of the tweets. David Cage has a history of discussing behavior, especially towards women and the queer community. The Star Wars Eclipse revealed had me really excited, but we will not be covering the game while Cage is involved. And we support the fans behind Blackout Star Wars Eclipse. And to read another tweet, put simply, the involvement of Quantum Dream and David Cage in Star Wars Eclipse is concerning because of the studio and Cage's reputation of toxic workplace conditions and Cage's previously alleged statements about women and LGBTQ plus people, end quote. So it seems like, and they're not going by LucasArts anymore. I think Lucasfilms. What are they calling themselves now? They used to go by LucasArts, but now it's like Lucasfilms did games, or I think they tried to.
I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing that, but
yeah, they're going by Lucasfilms games now. So before it used to be LucasArts. They used to kind of separate everything, but now I think they want Lucasfilms. Now they're adding games to it, and it seems kind of odd that they would be in a situation where they didn't have a response for, I mean, like I said, before this, I had heard about this before, back when there was like a big discussion about video games and toxic work cultures and stuff like that. I mean, Blizzard is going through a massive thing right now with their supposed toxic work culture there. Excuse me. So, yeah, I do find it odd, like a company as big as LucasArts, and we're going even bigger than that, Disney, wouldn't have a response to the possible backlash that this brings. But I suppose this does bring a whole argument about how do you feel, and I'm asking you, Mike, how do you feel about, does a company have a responsibility if there's accusations of toxic workplace, disparaging comments towards women, LGBTQ? Is that something that Disney and Lucasfilms should have concerned themselves before they went into a deal with this studio to make this game?
I mean, I feel like you should know about that stuff before you get into bed with a business. I mean, look at Succession. They look at what they do beforehand, or, what they have the lackeys do beforehand in that show, just to like figure out what the pros and cons and what kind of controversies. And that's the business world, right? So you figure Lucas and Disney would know a little bit about this, especially since it looks like it's a 3-year-old kind of thing. I mean, it looks like he was, again, this was to a French outlet. Something to the effect of, anyway, in my games, all women are whores, and in the open space, there is a lack of tits. And then at Quantic Dream, we don't make games for, it says F asterisk S. I assume he means the slur for gay people, but they don't have it in the article I'm reading in Gizmodo right now. So yeah, you should know about who you're getting into bed with. And sometimes that does lead to change. Regarding toxic workplaces, I consider myself of a generation, where we did grow up, joking about those things or whatnot. But now I think people are, I hate the word woke, but so I feel like people are more.
I so hate, we should have a whole thing. I so hate that word and so hate about canceled. It seems like when certain words here's how you always know about it. Sorry to go off a tangent, but as soon as like old 55 and plus white men start using a word that was never in their vocabulary, that word's like just dead to me. Same with lit, same with bling bling. All that shit is just like, I can't fucking, it's like, ugh, but go ahead.
I mean, I feel like, we as a society, and it's due mostly, I would say, to the younger generations coming up and being raised better, or learning things, or being willing to listen to people, and it's a general cultural change. It's also causing the cultural rift that we're experiencing, especially in America today. But with people growing up thinking about this, it becomes more prevalent, becomes more well known. I mean, look at Chris Noth. I mean, I know I'm going off on a total tangent. He just got 3 sexual abuse, sexual allegations against him. He's been dropped by his company after he got killed off on that new Sex and the City show. He got dropped by his representation because of this. So people are more willing to come forward. I mean, this has happened, Harvey Weinstein, Marilyn Manson. I mean, all this stuff's coming out now. And so if this stuff was going on where it made people feel uncomfortable and, it was raised and brought to his attention and he still didn't give a shit, I mean, that just goes to like, you hear the same kind of thing with Barstool Sports and how they're kind of toxic, boys club mentality. It's not good for people, whether it's, people of different ethnicities, people of different sexes, people of different sexual orientations. So again, that's just something I feel like something Disney or Lucas probably knew about. In the Gizmodo article, it says it's unknown what that guy's, David Cage's, involvement with the game is. Beyond him tweeting out this trailer. So I guess it remains to be seen. I'm still going to play the fucking game or buy the game. It might suck. I don't know. I don't mind the whole choose your own adventure kind of thing, but I guess we'll see how it plays into the game. Like I said, with Fallen Order, you kind of, it's basically a story. You're playing it and, you go along with the choose your own adventure. I'm the kind of guy that likes to play a game to a certain end. I don't mind if there's multiple endings. That almost makes the replay value a little bit more enticing. But I guess we'll find out. Like I said, I think it's going to be next year when it comes out. But with the whole workplace environment, you can't do that nowadays. We should have never done it all along. People should never have been made to feel uncomfortable. You watch something. I know I'm on a tangent. You go watch something like Mad Men. And that whole environment back then in the 60s, and that's what was happening. But is that okay now? No. So if something like that, or even remotely similar, or anything where it makes someone feel uncomfortable at a place they're going to work every day and getting paid to be there, it's something that shouldn't be happening.
Right. And, the whole backlash, I don't know. I guess it's just compounded with my loss of faith in humanity, or particularly this American culture. I just feel like people just like, can't we just go back to a simpler time where we could be shitty to certain people and they would just accept it? It's kind of where I feel like a lot of people, and I think we, at a certain point we were getting to where things were getting better. But I think what happened was a lot of people figured out that, hey, we might not be in the majority, but there's still a lot of us who feel like, oh, there's just too much wokeness. Now it's just an excuse you could just slap on woke to anything. It's like you said something shitty and you don't feel like apologizing about it. So, oh, well, I'm not buying in the woke, or, you have what would be considered a shitty opinion. And, you're using the wokeness stuff as a cover to be able to continue having that shitty opinion without getting a blowback. And that's what really it comes down to. Before, people used to have these opinions and there was no blowback because, what would people do? Now with the internet and with social media, there's a place for people to voice their concerns or their grievance about it. And, now it's become, everything's woke. Well, no, these concerns always existed, except what we're going to do, write a letter to your newspaper, or I'm gonna write an angry letter to such and such about, the shit he said when he called gay people the F word. But, you could just not read those. But now it's on social media for everyone to read. And, we have this quote unquote woke culture and the backlash against it. And I don't know, slowly going toward our demise. That's the way I feel about it. But I mean, hopefully it doesn't affect the game too much. I just feel like I feel like there's too much of an outrage culture on both sides. I feel on one side, we should give Disney and Lucas, an opportunity to explain like, hey, maybe this guy isn't completely involved. Maybe he's only, yes, it's his company, but he's not directly involved with the game. We should, take some time to see, okay, where's this going? On the other side, I feel like there's all the backlash. Oh, people are being too woke and you're all sensitive and blah, blah, blah. And so it seems like people are jumping to defend this dude. Like, but what if this dude really is a piece of shit? And immediately you're already seeing people defending the guy without even knowing, like, hey, he could be, doing all this fucking stuff. And maybe this isn't someone Disney and Lucas should be involved with. So yeah, too much outrage on both sides. And I'm just sitting here like, ugh. Like, I don't want to go back.
Where's my game?
Yeah. Right.
That's what you're saying. No, I mean, I get it. It's a fine line, but like I said, the more generations that are raised a certain way, grow up a certain way, and plus with the technology linking more people than ever before, you're exposed to people that you weren't exposed to before. Say you live in a small town in the Midwest and you have, let's just use the example of black people. Let's say you have one or two people, one black family, say, and that's it. With social media and everything, you're inundated with other cultures, other people, and you can link with other people. So I feel like society is becoming more connected, but that has its pros and cons, obviously. So
yeah, I can lead to a whole nother tangent rant, but let's go on to another topic.
All right, well, we'll take a quick break and then we'll come back and we'll see what else we can cover in our C block. You're listening to The Usual Saints. We'll be right back. Because I mean, we could. I've had Chappelle on the list forever, but that's a whole fucking hour-long conversation, I feel like, right there.
Yeah, which is crazy because, like I said, I have such mixed. Didn't we do a little bit of Chappelle? I thought we
did a little bit, I think, but not like. I mean, I the reason I started recording and started bringing it up is because I'll probably leave that in there. But so welcome back to The Usual Saints. But I mean, I don't know. I guess we could get into it. I feel like it could be a lengthy conversation. So obviously Chappelle put out that special. Do you know the name of the special? Because I'm unaware of it.
The Closer.
Okay, The Closer. So that's the one with the anti-trans stuff. Yeah, because we talked about Hannah Gadsby and all that kind of stuff. I think we might have done that on USSR, but whatever. These two podcasts mixed together. But he went out to, I guess, his former high school or college. I'm not sure which one it was.
High school.
Okay, so he went there. It's like a performing arts high school, right?
Yep. Yes.
And so he goes there after the event was canceled because of all the controversy. He still showed up. He did a Q&A. And basically, from what I read, I didn't see any videos or anything like that. But from what I read, the students were bringing up, their concerns about this and their questions about, his material and voicing their opinions. And he would basically joke back to them. And sometimes, I mean, with these high school students, he was basically belittling them and using them as the butt of the joke. I'm all for any kind of humor, but it's almost like, I don't know, is some of it not appropriate anymore? Like we grew up, Revenge of the Nerds, 80s raunchy comedies, Porky's. You can't do shit like that anymore. So, I mean, is it society getting better? Is it us becoming too PC? I mean, I'll still laugh at something, but I do try to better myself, and that brings us to, I mean, just the whole, did you read that article that little letter that Wil Wheaton wrote about the Dave Chappelle situation?
No. What
So he put out a letter basically saying that, because Wil Wheaton, obviously Stand By Me, Star Trek Next Generation, all that kind of stuff. And he said he used to go out and play hockey, I guess when he was a teenager. So he was already famous at the time. He'd go to like a local hockey park or whatever the fuck they play hockey. I don't know. So he'd just play whoever needed a goalie or whatever. So he played with one team that needed a goalie. They won the game. They go to the locker room and he, without thinking anything, without identifying this ahead of time, said something to, the effect of he basically called the other team like, the F word or whatnot, basically because they lost, they are losers, blah, 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 that kind of thing, without realizing that everyone on the team that he had played with and won the game was gay. So it was like an entire gay team. And so what he used that experience to say is that people change, people grow. He did this as a teenager and he realizes how wrong it is now. And he says he still relives that memory. It's one of the worst things he's ever gone through because of, what he felt like those people must have felt like, because they approached him afterward. Like, why would you say that? Or why, what made you think that? What makes you think that's kind of okay? They weren't mad. I think they were more sad that he said that to him at the time. And so that made him grow as a person. And he goes on to say that, belittling groups or, using that kind of humor, it may have been acceptable at one point in time, but society changes. And so people should as well. And so it's not okay to use that sort of humor to belittle, especially, not degraded, people who are, put down and trashed on more than, especially white Americans or white people in general, because, that's our role throughout time is, being the oppressors. So I just thought it was a really well-written article. I encourage anyone to go check it out. Just Google Wil Wheaton, Dave Chappelle. I'm sure it'll pop up. But, like I said, I kind of said my piece. I haven't seen the closer, so I don't know if I'd be laughing the whole time, if I would feel weird and cringy laughing. But I mean, what do you think about the whole situation? We don't have to go on forever about it because obviously there's a lot to unpack in it. But what's your opinion, I guess, based off what we've talked about?
Real quick, you can air this out. Am I coming in clear or am I coming in choppy? Because you were like breaking up a little bit.
Oh, I was breaking up?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're okay now, but you chop up sometimes, so I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So, and again, I don't know if I said this before, but I'll also like kind of roll in, not to make this too long, but also part of J.K. Rowling and all the shit she does about being a TERF and all that stuff. So first about the special, and it's so weird because of everyone commenting on the special beforehand, I really was anticipating this special for Dave to like, okay, here's Dave talking about he doesn't really care about the trans issue, but here he goes again, bringing it up. I guess I was expecting more, but after seeing the special, and again, I guess I want to make clear, but for whoever listens to this, if this gets out, on a lot of the issues that he brings up, I disagree with Chappelle on an intellectual level, on how he's trying to frame his argument. I completely disagree with it. But the funny thing about this special in particular, I watched it and laughed at some parts because Chappelle's a great comedian, but I did not feel it was as egregious as some people were trying to make it out to be. I feel like he spent a lot of time trying to explain his position and how he felt about this, but there wasn't the trans jokes like he had before. Like it's basically like, I'm, talking to a lady in a dress and sorry, but your dick is hanging out, that kind of thing. I felt like he was really trying to explain, which comes to another criticism where some people are like, instead of saying jokes, he's just talking and trying to explain himself, where the point of a comedy special is to make jokes or to make points in a humorous kind of way. And really, I feel like a lot of it was just him getting on there, trying to just explain how he felt about things. So that was one strange thing, because I felt this special, in a way, the only way I can say it isn't as bad as some people made it out to be. On that note, there were some things where I completely disagree with him. And it completely kind of pisses me off the way people try to explain these things, to whereas they're trying to explain the trans or their position on trans people, saying it's trans women are like men playing blackface, and how trying to equate it to blackface, which is completely a bullshit analogy. If you know anything about blackface, anything about the history of our country, it doesn't hold up. And to have Dave Chappelle try to equate the two, I felt was kind of disappointing, because it's like, dude, I think you're smarter than that. Using these lowbrow analogies that I think just completely don't fit into the argument we're having. But on that note, it does come down to the fact that I feel like on one point, Chappelle's like, how, if you feel a certain way, do I have to accept it? And he's making it, I guess, kind of a freedom of speech or a freedom of thought. to where if someone says, I identify as something, do I, as a person on the other side, have to accept that? And I don't know, like I said, I'm someone who I love blue humor. I love dark comedy. I'm an Anthony Jeselnik fan. I like saying the inappropriate things at inappropriate times. I'm oftentimes the one person who will say something that everyone's thinking, but you're not supposed to say it out loud. But I also am a person where it's like my empathy begins and ends at people's humanity. And I will make fun of something you do. I don't care if you're black, if you're white, if you're trans, if you're gay, if you're Jew, whatever, Muslim, whatever. I think people's behavior is full game all the time. If you do something stupid, I don't care who you are, unless, again, I guess we could put this in the context, unless, of course, you have some kind of mental handicap or, that sort of thing, a mental disability. But I think people's actions are always fair game, no matter who they are. But it's when you start talking about people's humanity and put it in a way where you have no empathy for someone's humanity, that's when I think the lines get very, very blurred. And I just don't understand why it's so hard to try to give empathy to a group of people who historically, societies have treated like shit. And I just don't get it. And the same thing with, J.K. Rowling, and her and Chappelle make the same argument. Oh, I don't have anything against trans people. I hope those people are happy. I hope blah, blah, blah. But there's always comes this, but I'm not going to recognize you as what you say you are. I'm going to still refer to you as a man, even though you identify as a woman, because fuck you, because it's my right. And then it's crazy that they can take that position. But if I go, well, then I'll identify J.K. Rowling. I'll identify you as a bigot. Well, then she gets all in arms. Like, oh, well, I'm not, you can't say that about, dare you, blah, blah, blah. It's like, so you have the right to identify people the way you see them, but I can't take your own words and actions and identify you as a bigot, which it just confounds me. And again, it's like people want to be able to, they want to have their views. They want to say what they want to say, have their views, but they don't want the backlash. That's, I think, what we've come to. It's like, I want to have a position, but I do not want you to feel any way about me because of my position. I want you to say, hey, still look at me in a certain light. It's like, we just don't live in those times anymore. So, yeah, and I did read a thing about Dave. He went back there. It was kind of weird because they tried to cancel it, but then the people that are getting the money from Dave, which was the school, they're like, no, it's not canceled. We're still taking the money. And he showed up there. And I guess it was kind of like the kids, they wanted to have a question and answer where they were kind of airing out their grievances. And Dave Chappelle's like, basically his thing is, you're just a bunch of kids. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I'm the funniest comedian in the world and I'm rich. But then it was also afterwards, people were still taking pictures and there were hugs and they were like, hey, I kind of get it. So then there were some people saying, is Chappelle just doing this? He's trying to make a point, but it's not like he doesn't. It feels like he understands where the other side comes from, but maybe because he's at a point where it's like, hey, I'm older, I'm crankier, I'm super rich, and I feel a certain way, and I just don't want to get the backlash for it. That's where I kind of feel like Chappelle's at right now. It's like, hey, I'm super comedian Dave Chappelle. And if I say something that you have issues with, you don't have the right to comment on it because I'm super rich Dave Chappelle, funny guy. And I just kind of feel like I just ain't with it no more. I'm like, there's no empathy. It's very confusing, especially if you have so much money. To me, I guess that's, people say, well, it's because they don't want to conform and because they have a voice. But I'm like, if I had all this money and fame and stuff, would my cause be like, look at these people over here who suffer? The way they talk, you would assume that trans people have it great in this country, and personally, I'm more like, again, because of what she does, fuck Caitlyn Jenner. I feel like she's actually bad for the trans community because she's basically like doesn't give a fuck about anybody until it affects her. She was full Trump, full whatever. Republican. I don't think trans people should use, until it became something that affected her. And then, then she gave a shit, but you would think the way they speak as if trans people are having such great lives and such, the trans, they're taking over or something, when it's like, still feels like it's probably not the greatest to be trans, the way people talk and the way they're viewed in society. So I'm going to cut it short because I can go on and on about this, but.
I mean, I just want him to come back and do Chappelle's Show season 4 and bring back Clayton Bigsby and get an update on him. But, that's never going to happen.
But also to equate it, because a thing he does in there, he says that he's playing the minority Olympics, saying that, trans people, their rights, they've surpassed Black people when it comes to getting their rights heard. And then you have a lot of gay Black people and gay trans people like, wait a minute. We're Black and trans. Like you're pitting this, like saying how like trans people, you could say you could kill a Black person and it'd be okay, but you can't say anything about trans people and then you get canceled. But then you had gay Black and trans people like, what are you talking about? You're acting as if we don't exist, as if being trans is quote unquote like kind of like a white issue. It's very strange, but I guess the way I'll end it is it kind of sucks because now. And I'll include like Joe Rogan and a lot of people, they realize that there's still an audience for these people. They're the type of people who do not want any kind of growth and will hide behind the fact like, oh, I don't want these people murdered, or I don't want these people locked up. They can live their lives, but I'm not going to buy into their bullshit. It's this cop out. It's like, I don't want the worst things. I'm not a Nazi. I don't want to put these people in ovens, but I don't respect their lifestyle, and I'm not going to call her by whatever name that she dictates. And you have these people who have gross opinions, but then they latch on to these celebrities and be like, see, we're not alone. And there's always like a market for this type of behavior where it's like in growth. And, full disclosure, when I was young, I never really used the F word, and I like using the words because I like clarity. I was never going around calling people faggots. That's not something I did when I was younger, but when I was young, I'm like, oh, that's gay. Or, you say something like, get out of here. Yeah, that's gay. And using gay as a pejorative. And as I got older and more mature and learned stuff, I've slowly weaned myself from doing that because like, what am I really trying to say here? You understand? And if a gay person was to hear that, what are they implying on me that I feel about them? And I just feel that's normal growth. And it's not like, the gays came knocking on my door, or trans people are knocking on the door. Hey, we're the trans police. We're the gay police. You better use the right words and right terminology. And no, that's not happening. But as a person who lives in a world and who wants everyone to feel included and to find empathy in every, race, religion, gender, however you identify, if I can make that change in myself, I don't see why it's so hard, but people are so resistant to it. And it's because they want to live in a fantasy time that didn't exist, which could lead me all into how I feel. Like maybe we'll save it for next week. We're slowly we're slowly going into a new American fascism. Like I don't have a good future for our kids. Like I really feel like in the next 15 to 20 years, we're going to be living in a fascist regime country. We can save that that golden optimistic view for next week. But
all right, sounds good. Yeah, because we've been going for it. I got other stuff I want to talk about. I want to talk about Jeff Garland. I want to talk about
let's run through a few real quick. Yeah,
real quick. All right.
Jeff Garland. What I saw something about it, but what happened?
So he got fired from the Goldbergs, which I don't watch because it's a sitcom, and maybe it's funny. I don't know. I don't like. I say I don't watch sitcoms, and then I watch Curb, or I used to be a fan of Seinfeld, and I still am. It's just different times. So he got fired from the Goldbergs, mutual parting of ways, allegedly. I still am trying to figure out exactly what. I know there were some people on the set that I guess complained about him for a few years. And he went and did a comedy set at the end of November, basically saying, that, he wants to get fired, or he should get fired, blah, blah. I mean, I'm looking at this article from Variety. It talks about this 2019 Netflix special where he said, A lot of the days on the Goldbergs, I sit in a Barca lounger in tidy whities for the whole day, and I think to myself, who did I blow to get this job? And then he laughs, and then he says, whenever he would set up from the Barca lounger, whenever they would cut or whatever, he would say, my vagina, achy vagina, my vagina's killing me. So it seemed like just like a comedian kind of actor thing to do. Now, I'm not sure if that's exactly what the whole people were upset about. I guess one of the things he said, again, was, I'm on a comedy, I'm a comedian, let's get over it. I don't have a vagina. I think everyone knows that. So it's like, the network came to him and said, you could get fired for this because it's an HR complaint. And he's like, I'd love to be fired and have it hit the papers, cover of TMZ, Jeff Garland fired because his vagina hurts. So again, this is like comedy, and, is that something he shouldn't be saying, or should everyone know that it's a joke? You know what I mean? Again, it goes down that rabbit hole. It's difficult.
Right. And then I also want to say there's a great episode of I think we talked about this, of WTH, Mark Maron's podcast, where he has a guy on there talking about the death of comedy, and this guy literally goes through, and he has his own podcast. I forget the guest name, but this guest literally has through the 20th century, comedians in every decade saying how this is going to be the death of comedy. Like, you can't say anything anymore. Like, this is going to be a death of comedy. And you have comedians in the 40s and the 50s when they were saying jokes where they were absolutely racist jokes. Like, there's no way you can say this isn't a racist joke. But then the comedian coming on there and defending it, saying like, oh, people can't take a joke anymore. Or like, this is going to be the death of comedy if I can't say things about Chinese people, if I can't say disparaging things about Italians and blacks. So it shows like through the decades, comedians there's always been a pushback where, especially where comedians says, you can't say anything anymore. People can't take a joke. And like you said, the difference is before, studios and people, they would put up with this shit. And I guess like there's always an action and, an action and a reaction. And I think the problem was, this stuff went on so long that you created monsters like Harvey Weinstein. Like the way the old system works, and it boggles my mind that people don't see this. Like, the way the old system works, you had monsters like a Harvey Weinstein doing terrible things, basically committing rape, all kinds of harassments, the quote unquote casting couch that exists in Hollywood, all these things. And the excuse was, well, because, we have to, because he's a great talent and he does things, basically excusing it, which is complete bullshit, but has there been maybe an overreaction swing to the other way where, someone just tells a joke, or someone trying to be funny or something, and it's an incident that might get him fired? Perhaps, but there has to be some kind of correction. And if people, grown men, can't see like, hey, I'm in a job with women, maybe I shouldn't be saying this kind of, if you're on a comedy stage is somewhere where not everything's acceptable, but there's a level of absurdism and a level of, yes, I'm on a stage bullshitting, that's acceptable. But even on a comedy stage, there's certain things where certain lines nowadays that you shouldn't cross. And yes, someone can just say, hey, I don't find that funny. But just to be on set and working and saying these things, it's like, you're not on stage, dude. You're there acting. And no, you don't have to be, a mute. But if you're saying things that obviously is causing other people to be uncomfortable, like you said, it sounds like they gave him a chance to be like, hey, maybe you should cut it out. Because it's not like he said it and he was fired the next day. They're like, hey, dude, chill out. This could be an HR violation. And he's doing the thing where it's like, oh, I'd love it if they fired me. Just, becoming some, and get over all these motherfuckers. Like, you're not Rosa Parks. That's another thing I find infuriating. These motherfuckers, I'm standing up for free speech. No, you're not. You're being an asshole. And you just don't want to admit that you just don't want to change. You're being a curmudgeon. So, I mean, if he does get fired, I didn't watch the Goldbergs either. I think he's hilarious on Curb. And, it sounds like, yeah, he's probably like an old school comedian, like, and from his comedic sense I get from him, this does sound like something he would just do and be like, hey, what's the big deal? And it's kind of like, you're not on stage. You're doing a TV show, and you should be kind of try to be respectful of the people around you. And like I said, some work environments are completely different. Like I tell people, if we had cameras on my fishing boat, everything that says there's a lot of stuff that could be misconstrued as, oh, that could be racist or that could be one way or another. But it's our work environment. We kind of all agree what's together. And me as the purser on there, it's actually sometimes my job. Like I have to tell guys like, hey, let's not try to cross any lines. Like, yeah, I know this is still a fishing boat, but there's still lines we can't cross. That being said, we get female observers on the boat who work for the government. And when they're on the boat, it's like, hey guys, now that we have female observers, make sure you're covered up when you're coming out the showers and stuff, because there are females on the boat. Let's tone down some of the locker room talk. If, the open locker room talk, you have to know what environment that you're in. And if people can't be adult enough for about it, just, hey man, maybe it's time to find another profession. But I'm sure you can go and you can become another, anti-woke comedian tour and jump on that bandwagon, because it's getting to me now that seems like that's the new grift. Before, there's two grifts that you can prosper on. If you're a black person, the easiest, I'm telling you, and I've actually sat in bed and thought about this, Mike. If I had no morals, no shame, I could make tons of money right there. It's the easiest grift. Just be a black person that's willing to go on TV, on white people's television, and talk bad about black people. Just said, hey, there's no racism in America. It's all overblown. But black people just need to get their lazy asses out of bed and blah, blah, blah. If that's the easiest grift. If you're willing to be a black person and just talk down about black people, make white people feel comfortable with the bullshit that goes on, that's the easiest grift. And now the new grift is just, hey, I'm really sticking up for freedom of speech and blah, blah, blah. And, we're all, social justice warriors and woke, they're destroying our country and we're sticking up for, that's the new grift. It's the easiest thing in the world. So, man.
What's that? Yeah. What's that chick's name? Candace Owens,
yeah. Which is funny. Because her original grift, when she was in college, she actually sued. This is a woman who's actually gone to Congress and says that there's basically no more racism in America. But if you look in her past, she literally sued her first university she went to for racism. It's all been a grift for money. She just realized, hey, it's a lot easier to go on this side. I mean, you have, what's his name? Herschel Walker and his son he's running for governor, or not governor, Senate in Georgia, but his son has figured out this grift, and it's just the easiest thing to be. You will see it if you're a black person that only has pretty much negative things to get. If you're willing to go on TV or radio or wherever and talk bad about black people and tell white people how good and how clean they are and how America is still the greatest country on earth, and and how we should just be grateful for all the things this country has given to us, easiest grift in the world. Candace Owens, Jason Whitlock, bunch of them. Just, ugh.
All right. Well, on that happy note, let's end the show because we've been going a while. Right. And we have a USSR to record.
Right.
All right. Let's see. So we'll be back next week. We'll see who we get on the show. I'm always out looking for interviews. If you guys have anyone that want to be interviewed, by the way, I don't know if I ever said this, let me know, because we'll talk to basically anyone and we can at least squeeze 15 minutes of nothing else out of it. And if it's good, we can squeeze 2-3 hours out of it. And as usual, leave us a 5-star review. Oh, that's what we forgot to do, the 5-star reviews. We have to do it next week.
Do we have any?
Yeah, we got several.
Okay.
We will leave it for next week, and we will start the show with the 5-star reviews next week. I promise.
Absolutely.
They are the older ones, but they're still, let's go through them. And that way each week, if we get more, we can put new ones out. Go to the website, theusualsaints.com. The email is usualsaints@gmail.com. Social media is The Usual Saints at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Find us, join us, whatever, share it, blah, 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 get it out there. And we'll be back with a brand new episode next week. Until then, for Saint, I'm Mike D. Thanks for listening to The Usual Saints.
Peace.